This video is supported by Central Oregon Radio, Central Oregon's #1 internet station. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ranger Rob Country Living Podcast. I had to laugh because we're having like last minute little moves with Caleb on his thing, and so when he came on, it was actually our intro was going, so it's like I couldn't talk to you. So good to have you, Caleb. Welcome to the show again, and we got some great questions for you today. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, yep, I think so. I was going to switch over to an earbud there.
Oh, no problem. Right. Just making sure you're hearing all right. Before we get going, of course, we got Caleb from Green Thicket Farm, and we had you on about a month ago, and we were talking about Idaho Pasture pigs. So before I get started, I want to make sure I introduce my co-host here, which is Aimee from DragonFly Farm, who is now an Idaho Pasture pig owner, and a very proud one and very happy with her pig. And so today we're going to focus on the business and processes of having Idaho Pasture pigs. And what's really nice about this show, and reminds me to switch my screens there, is a lot of this, what we're going to talk about, probably can apply to livestock too, and other forms too. So I'm hoping this to be a very productive day, and we're trying not to go past an hour. I just lost Caleb. Anyway, I think he's having internet problems, but we're going to try to stay within an hour. But if it goes over, I'm not going to be sorry about that, because he's going to have a lot of great information. So hang in there. I know he's having a little internet trouble, so he'll probably be popping in and out, and he's back again. Hi, can you hear us okay?
Not really. Yeah, I'm getting like little bits and pieces.
Oh no!
I don't know what is going on. Right.
We'll do a lot of times when we have people on the show, we tell them also, if you have other programs going on your computer, like email or anything like that, go ahead and turn it off, and just try to give your computer a little bit of break. But it could be your internet. So poor guy. So how you doing? Are you hearing us?
I think he's frozen.
I don't know. Are you hearing us okay?
No, not at all.
Oh no.
I don't know if you. I'm nailing like one every 2 syllables.
Oh, bummer. Well, we'll hang in there, and we'll. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Caleb before, and see if he can get things adjusted a little bit. But first of all, he's also, I believe, the president of the Idaho Pasture Pig Breed Association, and so we want to make sure, and I do this, is to make sure and let you know that when we talk about Idaho Pasture pigs and how to raise them and things like that, it's of our own opinion and also from his farm, and not associated with the Idaho Pasture Pig Breed Association. So these are our own personal ways of farming and our own personal processes. And so please don't cross over to think that these are opinions of the Breed Association. So let's see if he's hearing us any better. How are you doing? He's going to go get closer to the internet, I bet. One moment, please.
All right. Maybe this will be a little better. This is where we're having better. Okay.
So far, so good. Can you hear us okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Man. Yeah, no, now it's still just every other syllable. I am so sorry.
Oh, no problem. Like I was saying earlier, if you can hear me, turn off anything on your computer you're not using. That'll probably help if you can hear me. Like turn off your email, turn off any graphics, anything like that. He's going to try again. He'll be back. So first of all, since we're waiting for Caleb to kind of get his internet working, the first question I have, and by the way, Elijah, how you doing? Of course, we're winging it here with this issue here. You got an Idaho Pasture pig. So how's your little Piglet doing?
She's doing fantastic. And, Elsa McGirdle.
She's doing good.
She's doing fantastic.
So are you still, have you built anything special for them? Or you still got them mixed with the goats and stuff like that?
She's still with the goats. What we're planning is when the garden is completely done producing for the year, we're going to fence the garden and make it safe for her. and then we're going to let her go in there. And I know that Idaho pasture pigs aren't the worst rooters in the world, but we're going to let Elsa go into the garden area and poop in there and kind of dig around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when we used our Mr. Cow or our other pigs at the time, they were doing really good with our tearing up our field and helping our garden. So yeah, that's a good place for them to. And there's lots of treats in them for right now with things dying out. So how are we doing now, Caleb?
I had you good for like 2 minutes there, and could lift putting pigs in a garden, and then right as soon as you started to ask, it broke down.
Oh no. When you're talking, it seems to be okay. So we'll try to ask you questions, and when you're talking, don't worry about it breaking up. So is that better?
Yeah, now I've got you again. It must just be the storm overhead. So
you need to put tinfoil in your head. What's that?
I said, hurry, ask him a question while he can hear you.
Okay, well, I have one question for you. This is really important. You ready, Caleb?
I'm ready.
What is this?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have seen the Chicken Daddy calendars that everybody keeps throwing on the group. I think this is the second time that Chris Leahy has thrown that on the group to try to convince us to do as a fundraiser for the Breed Association. And honestly, I'm really happy with what the social media committee came up with as the choices, because I don't know if you've seen the Chicken Daddy stuff, but like the last 3 Chicken Daddy calendars have been Daisy Dukes, get sundresses, and colorful tutus. So I feel like I lucked out on this one, and that we got a pretty mild, chill option. So the goal is to make a calendar with this and get as many guys to contribute so that we can use it as a fundraiser for the association. So yeah, like I said, I am pretty stoked that it's a very chill thing compared to what it could have been. So
yes, I was kind of like, I don't normally see guys wear tops like that, but I mean, in this day and age, yeah, but yeah, that was kind of different. I think I lost him again, but yeah, so this ought to be a really interesting interview. I got one answer out of him. So hang in there, guys. Just days like this happens. We had the same problem with the Sprague River folks the first time I interviewed them, and he's back.
Sorry, I don't normally see guys, which is really difficult because we're all over almost 50% of the population. So,
oh, well, today we're going to talk about some business. And last time we had you, we talked kind of more just about what was IPP pigs and stuff like that. But you and I have had some conversations about business and things like that. And I have a lot of interesting questions now that I've had piglets. And mine is, I want to kind of start off a little bit with sorting. For example, now I got pigs and I'm getting some of them sold. Like Aimee bought one. So those guys came and picked up their pigs already, and we dewormed them, and they're off on their way, and they're all happy campers. And then I've got some that we're raising, and we're going to take them to butcher size, and then they'll buy it, pay for them at the butcher place. And when we went with, and I will get back to the business part of it, but we went with your formula of $5.25 a pound based off of hanging weight. Now that's still a pretty low number, but that for our first year, we thought.
I would definitely, like I said, so I remember we talked about it last time. So my feed costs are drastically less than yours. Yeah. So really, you're going to want to compare like what Caleb's making profit margin based on that feed cost, and then come up with a price that works with what your feed costs are. Because you guys are drastically more expensive out here or out there than we are. Every time we look at it, Oregon is about 30-ish% higher cost of living wise, except you guys don't have. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
Although if there is no sales tax, so that's I guess we get that coming from us too, but
Yeah.
not for everything you have to buy at Lowe's and whatnot. Or
Well, what my before I got into the business and the numbers, one of the things I did want to talk about was how to sort your pigs. So, for example, I've got, let's take 1 litter, and I've sold 5 of them, and I've got 5. No, I sold 4 of them, and I got 5 of them left. 2 of them were growing out to full size. 2 are going to be my feeders, and then another one I have left over, which is an extra male, and he's past the 8-week mark. So we've had him castrated. He's all set up for being a feeder, but he's not sold yet. And it's a beautiful looking pig for a feeder. So what typically do you do when you have pigs that you weren't able to sell before the 8-week mark? Do you just hold on to them and let them grow, or do you still advertise them? What do you start doing with the pigs that get kind of past that 8-week mark?
okay, I don't hear it beeping at me anymore, so I think you stopped talking.
No.
I think oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
The general gist of what your question was, I broke up pretty early on into that. It sounded like what you were asking about is how do I sort them off to feed them out? So roughly same size groups.
Oh no. Well, this is going to be a tough one, isn't it? He's got to pay his internet bill.
Yeah. I wonder, could you type the questions for him in the private chat that's between the 3 of us, and then when he could answer?
I can give that a try. Let me get him back on here. He's back. Hi. You still there? You look so frustrated. So are you hearing us okay?
All right. I can barely hear you at all. I did get that, but it was so warbled that I'm just assuming you asked if you could hear me or if I could hear you. So I think what your question was is that you were asking how do we sort them to grow them out? And the easiest thing to do, no matter whether it's a feeder piglet or one that you're going to be raising up as a breeder piglet, whether they're gilts, whether they're barrows, if they're all roughly the same age, then I just raise them all out together. They're all going to, because really you want to evaluate how well does that potential breeder grow out under the exact same condition.
Poor guy.
Yeah. So one of the problems I'm having, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about, and so hopefully when he gets back, when he's getting close to answering my question, is now I get these pigs, they're getting past the 8-month-old part, and some of them I'm going to grow out, and some are sold and I'm growing out, and some are my feeders and are growing out, and one's not sold at all. So it's really a pig that right now I'm going to be paying for and feeding at the whole time. Until I get a buyer. So I kind of wanted to take the question about that, and in fact, as the pig gets older and I continue to feed them, what would be, let's say somebody bought it from me as a feeder at $150. Well, let's say I've had them for another month and I was feeding them. Do I charge more, or what would you normally do? And I'm wondering if you caught any of that.
Are you talking here?
So do I charge more for a feeder if I've held on to them past 8 weeks? Oh, poor guy.
Type it in the private chat.
Yeah. Caleb, there's a screen on there on your computer that calls private chat. I'll try to word the questions that way. So I'm not a fast typer though. Do I charge more for feeder? Okay, look at the private chat.
Okay.
Go to the private chat, Caleb. Can you hear me?
Yeah, he's doing it now. I see him moving.
I'm not sure if you've seen it. We have a private chat button, and in the private chat, you should see my question. So those are actually on our show. So what would you do? Because normally we charge $150 for piglets, basically once they get weaned and are ready to leave their moms. And let's say you have a pig left over you haven't sold yet. And do I continue to advertise that I have a feeder pig? And then the question is, how long do I go before I start adding more to the cost of the 150? Because I've been feeding that pig for a duration of time. And so that's kind of one of the questions I've been concerned about. Yeah, so that was kind of part of it. And so managing what I've got so far has been my problem. So as Caleb kind of pops in and out, maybe we'll get a good streak of internet for him. I'll kind of talk about some of my issues, and probably Aimee, you're probably going to have some of these issues too. And what do you do when you have a customer that oh, there we go. John's got a opinion. John said, I've definitely charged more for a larger pig beyond 8 weeks. I would pay more for a pig if it really wanted one beyond 8 weeks. Okay, so let's assume that let's hope all the customers is as good as John. But because somebody might come along and they come in 10 or 12 weeks, and then I'm still I charge them 200 or 250. Then they'll go back and say, but John only paid 150. It's like, yeah, but I've held this pig longer. I've had to feed him.
Well, what this makes me think of, when we were shopping for horses, we would often come across one that needed training. And so the price was lower. I know training and feeding is different, but a lot of times a horse without training would be a lower cost. And it said, it's this price, not trained, but if I hold on to him, I'm going to do his training, and then the price will go up from there. So to me, that totally makes sense that the bigger the pig, the price is going to go up.
Yeah, and I totally agree. But I love to hear other people's opinions like John's given us. So even after this show is over, people that have been watching the show, in the comments, feel free to put your comments about some of these things, because these will be problems you would have as a breeder, or if you're raising or selling pigs along with other animals, whether it's cows or horses, etc. The other thing was concerning is, for example, you got a really good friend, super good friend, and they're best of buddies, and they buy a pig from you, and it's a female, and then they decide they want to register their pig and decided to be breeders. How do you handle that?
We best figure that out, shouldn't we?
I know. who could possibly be that person? Anyway, so do you go back and go, because when you sell a breeder, do you it's normally a higher price. Of course, we should go back and take a really good close look at that pig and say, okay, what qualities would it have been a pig that I would have picked as a breeder? And I didn't look that close at that pig. And then the other thing is, because I'm the breeder, we have to go into the Idaho Pasture Pig Registry, and we're the ones that register a pig to be a breeder. Not just anybody could do it. So, and that's going to keep everybody honest. So, and there's a fee to that. So there's going to be, I think it's less than $20. So anyway, so how do you deal with that scenario like that? And I'm sure with Caleb, he's probably seen it all. He's back. There he is. No, still bad. Well, just do the best you can, or let it sit for a little bit and see if your internet improves and gets a better flow. Once again, shut off anything on your computer you're not using, like your email, graphics programs, things like that. Try to shut that off if you can. That could help. John came late to the conversation. He says, came late to the conversation. How many more of the originals do you have, Rob? And of the piglets, I'm assuming you're talking about. And the question is, this is the first set of piglets, not my second. So the first set of piglets, I only have one piglet left. So they're all sold. We sold all 8 of them. And we've already actually sold over half of Maggie's, our second ones. Anyway, so I think I hope that answers your question, John. These scenarios come up, and I'm pretty open-minded on all the different scenarios. I'm just bringing them up for the conversation. Let's see. And then, of course, I was really hoping Caleb was going to be running really well better today. But so now that you start accumulating pigs that you're going to grow out, how do you sort them together? Can you have, like, since all my males are castrated, I can put the boys and girls together, no problem. But I can't. There's and one of those feeders is going to go over to my boars area, and he's castrated anyway, but he's going to be smaller. And I've been told in fact, I called Caleb on this question: can I send a little burrow over to my boars area as a companion pig, and when can I do that? And he pretty much said anytime you want. The problem you would have is if you're putting 2 boars in together of the same age, then there would be a conflict of who's going to be the top dog. But when in that case you're putting a little pig in, it's automatically determined that the little one is the secondary. So you'll have probably no brawls at all. And it's the same with females, by the way. When I put Zelda and my 2 main sows back together, probably the first day they're going to butt heads and determine who's going to be the top dog of the paddock. But it's usually not very fierce. The boars can be a lot worse. This is only, I know I'm saying, just repeating what people have told me. The boars tend to be a little more aggressive. Of course, they could be butting heads, and they sometimes have their tusks. Mine doesn't. My boar doesn't have tusks, but yet. But typically, it's just a good butting heads, and they might bite each other a little bit and stuff like that. But you do want to watch. But typically, I know that Maggie was my bigger pig, and she'd probably be my dominant one, and Zelda would back off, and she's such a sweetheart anyhow. So, but they are going back together. They grew up together, so I don't know if that means anything, but that's another dilemma I got coming up, is how to sort these pigs for the time span till they're butchered, or when I'm ready to rebreed them. And one of the things I was worried about with the boar, like Sparky, is having him alone. I've been told a couple of times it seems to be a healthier scenario when they are partnered or have another companion in their paddock. And I tend to agree. This seems like, and it could be a personal thing, it could be a human emotion on my part, but it just seems like I should have another pig in there with Sparky to keep him stimulated, keep him out of trouble, things like that. Elijah says, I don't know. Let me put this on the screen. Says, I don't know about pigs, but with my birds, I thought it was this. Yeah. Some reason I saw kids or boys or whatever. I was like, it was some reason with my boys. Some reason with the birds, generally, it's up to generally up it $1 a week. Oh, I see what you're doing. You're talking about the other subject. $1 a week past 4 weeks to cover feed costs, which makes sense. All right, got him back. Oh, you're in another room.
Yeah, I went out to my shop. I figure I never usually have problems out here, so we'll try here.
Yeah. Do we sound better to you?
Yeah, I can hear you now, and it shows I have full bars, but normally I can stream our board meetings just fine in the office, so I didn't think it'd be an issue, but
it's just one of those days. Well, I appreciate you not giving up. That's and we're patient, so we understand. We've done so many of these shows. By the way, this is our 50th episode, so yay.
I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so hold on here a second. We got to celebrate for a minute. Celebrate. All right, that's enough. All right, so 50 episodes. So yeah, so I got to repeat some of my questions, but I had some really good ones. You really missed out. So too bad, Caleb.
I'll go back and watch it later. I'll go back to the YouTube episode.
You can answer them in
all right,
writing.
what all I miss?
So we're talking about, when you get past the 8-week mark, okay, and your pigs are now in a whole different realm. Well, first thing I was talking about, and you saw one of the comments, is how do you deal with feeder? You got one. Let's say you got one leftover feeder pig out of particular lot of our first piglets. And somebody comes along a month later and buys that pig. Well, normally I would charge $150, but I've been feeding that pig for another month. So how do you deal with that problem when you're still putting expense into those piglets?
So for me, it's going to depend on how desperate I am. Right? Yeah. So like normally, if for me it's like, okay, I can keep this pig and it's not a big deal to me. Or like right now, honestly, I need pretty much all the pigs I can get as we're trying to build into this farmers market scene, and we're starting to maybe pick up a couple restaurants. Like, I need the pork more than I need the $150, because I'll make drastically more off of selling that pig in little plastic packages than I will as a piglet. But if I am, like, I could actually really use the 150 now versus more money in 10 months, or I guess at that point you're looking at 7 to 8 months. Then I'll go ahead and either do that, or if I'm in the middle ground, which is where I prefer to be, where it's like, I could take it or leave it, and I can give someone that option to, you can take what I'm going to offer you, or if you don't, it's not the end of the world either way. Like, I will either just keep this pig or not. In which case, and that being that happy scenario of, I can throw you out a number, and if you don't accept it, it's not a big deal. I would charge $3 per head per day to keep him out on my farm. That covers feed and covers a little bit of labor. It doesn't cover a lot, but you figure $21 a week.
Nice. That makes sense.
We're on a roll there. Go ahead, Amy.
That really makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
How bad do you need that sale, or how bad do you need the meat, or just give them a number. And if they don't like what you said, then they weren't the person for the pig.
That's true. I like how we can talk about Caleb when he goes offline and then he comes back, and we can like, well, okay, we got to stop talking. He's gonna play this video back and wonder what the heck's going on. So he's back, but we got all your stuff, so we're good. So we got a new question for you.
I'm back to audio issues again, so now I'm not making out like
a
third of what you're saying.
So how do you deal with
that?
How do you deal with someone who buys a female pig from you and then decides that they want to turn it into a breeder and ask you to register it?
I don't. I have one customer that I will sell intact gilts that aren't registered to, and that's it. All other intact gilts that are not breed standard, which is a lot of them. I've got 8 sows, so I get a lot of those. They stay on farm and I feed them out. Those are my whole and half. Those are my retail cut pigs. The one customer that I sell to, she signs a contract stating that she will not breed them. And if through some horrible act it accidentally happens, there are 3 fail-safes on there. They either need to luteolase, so abort the litter within 48 hours, or they need to euthanize at birth, or they have the option to feed them out till 8 weeks, and then I have 3 months to come pick them up, and they're legally my piglets. Nobody's going to do that. Like, that's not. But most people will tell you this. And I've had lawyers tell me this at the same time, telling me to make sure I have a contract. Right? They'll tell you that a contract is just a piece of paper. So I do that with this one customer, even though I set those really strict standards of this is what I expect from you, because I 100% trust her. I've known her for a decade. She's not going to breed these pigs. This is it's the Colonial Gardens. I've got a video of touring them and talking through this process. They're just a agritourism farm. They just want to raise some pigs to have pork in their restaurant. The idea of having breeding livestock on their farm is just we don't have labor for this. We don't have staff for this. It's not even a thing. For a normal person, I wouldn't even come close. Keep them on your farm and feed them out. Huh?
What about females?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's females. So all your male feeders get castrated, so you can sell those. Castrate your males that don't meet breed standard, and sell those as feeders, because nobody can ever breed those. They don't have nuts anymore. But all your females that don't meet breed standard, retain them on your farm. If you don't have someone that you 100% trust and have a contract to hold that person that is then having to read the contract, looking at you like, really? You don't trust me? Still.
Yeah.
Trust them 100% and require a contract.
Well, so this is actually between me and Amy, actually. So Amy's got a female. And I totally trust her. As time's gone on, she was going to have somebody else raise their pig. Anyway, they brought them on site, and they're loving it to death, and it's working out well. And the families, and they got plenty of room, so now they're adapting their farm to be able to raise pigs. Or her little female, we didn't really look that close whether it was breed standard or not, but she
is it older than a year?
No. It's only
10 weeks, 11 weeks right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I haven't looked at the pig that close. I know it's a good looking pig. I know it's got good markings stuff. I haven't done a teats test on it to look do a count or anything, but it could be actually a pretty decent breeding pig. And she's thinking about maybe she will want to breed. And the question would be is if she wants to breed, apparently I would prefer that she stayed in the IPP realm. So I'm not opposed to registering it for her, but also we should take a good look at the pig and say, does this thing have a pretty good chance of meeting all the standards? Because we did not go into.
So you'll have to be the one to register it, no matter what. The breeder has to register. The new owner cannot register a pig.
Agreed.
If it was born on another farm. So, no. I mean, that's not that's just the way it should be. That is the way it'll go. If they try to go and register that piglet, Jody will just tell them, I'm sorry, no, but you'll have to have the breeder do this. The breeder has to be the one to register.
Yeah, and we have no problem with
cannot be registered.
And with us, it's no issue with that whatsoever. I guess my only consider would be we'd have to talk personally.
So go
ahead.
If you think that the pig, you can go back through and evaluate the piglet, and if you think that it meets breed standards to you, you can go ahead then and do that. If you've already sold this to someone else as this, so if you think that it does, because this is the big reason not to sell gilts that way, right? To accidentally sell intact gilts as feeders to people, because when we first started out, we did that too. We didn't really realize, and we were like, man, I don't know what to do with that many piglets. And then the first customer that we did that to that said, oh, I just want to raise them for meat for our family. That's it. Within 3-4 months, they were immediately back and go, oh, she has the best personality. She's so sweet. We absolutely love her. We want to have piglets with her. And that will happen with every single IPP. I can walk out in my feeder pen right now, and they all have wonderful temperaments. If there's a single one out there that has a terrible temperament, that's why it's there. All the others are only there because of some cosmetic defect. They should all have a great temperament, a great personality. They should all be lovable and then delicious. So it's not you have that option as the breeder, of course, to go back through within a year, because after a year, you can't register them anymore. you can go check out the Piglet. And if it meets your standards and you're comfortable putting your farm prefix on that Piglet's name now on that registration, then do so. Register the pig. I would then charge that difference of, we sold it for 150 and normally we sell breeders for 500. I would just charge that difference. Keeping in mind that, I'm making some extra money here by going ahead and doing that. There's not a lot of motivation for me there's no motivation for a breeder to do that, to try to make that extra little bit of money, because if that Piglet doesn't actually meet your standards, your farm prefix is now on that. So should that pig not grow out to look nice, you have your name now on a subpar pig, which I know from my early times doing this, even when we were fairly picky, I've got my initials out of there on some pigs that I'm not proud of. Yeah. But it's been so many years now at this point that there's no real change in it.
So are you suggesting that when you have piglets, I think I heard this right, but that all your gilts are basically keepers and not feeders? Is that right? Did you hear me all right?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
So are you suggesting that all gilts that you have in a piglets, that you get as piglets, to become farm feeders?
Not all of them. No.
Or breeders.
So we obviously sell and register gilts, but all the gilts that don't meet our standards,
yes, that's what I meant,
are feeders. Yeah. So we do about 25 to 33% of our litters out of a litter I like, right? Out of a litter that I'm like, this is a good litter. I'll get 25 to 33% as breeders. There are litters out there that I'm just like, you know what? I hate all of you. There wasn't a single one of you that I was like, you're good enough for me to put my name on. And of course, some of those are gilts. Gilts are going to be, and I would, to be honest, I would be a little more lenient, or I guess actually the easier way to look at it would be I'm stricter on boars than I am on gilts. So I will cull a boar for nothing. If there's the slightest thing that I'm like, you know what? I don't really like, I would rather have a barrow either out in my field or someone else is selling it as a feeder than I would a boar that is half of someone's herd than making a mistake with it. I would rather make a mistake with a gilt than I would with a boar. Because that gilt, she's only going to put her, once she becomes a sow, she's only going to put out so many babies, right? Compared to that boar, who our boars are one boar to 4 to 5 sows. So that's 5 litters twice a year that boar is half the influence to. Yeah. So I am always drastically more picky with my boar piglets than I am with my gilt piglets, but I'm still picky with my gilt piglets. There's still that really high standard. The boars are just one little step higher on that. So,
yeah. Now, the only thing I'd have to say different about our scenario and yours is you can get your meat packed and you have a USDA processor that you can use, and you can actually sell your meat individually at places
we just got that.
Yeah, you just got.
So for the last 3-4 years, we haven't had that. The last 3-4 years, every pig that we have retained and sold has had to go under custom exempt processing, which means we could only sell whole and half hogs.
Gotcha. And that would be our scenario here. That's all we have over here right now. So, so it's Sherry and I are just kind of going, all right, as we're going through this process of all these piglets, we've got these new scenarios coming up, and it's like, I never thought of that before. And so that's kind of, and since you've been in this for a while, it's been kind of nice to be able to share your experiences with us. So, I noticed
we've been learning for a few years. We've been screwing up for a few years. So we've made plenty of mistakes that we like to stop other people from making.
Yeah, well, I mean, just
everybody's going to make their own mistakes, but
I also noticed after 2 litters that once you get to a couple 15 to 20 piglets, and then pretty soon you start losing track of whose is whose and what's and all that. So we got into ear tagging, and thank goodness you had some videos about ear tagging, because I did watch them. And so I actually tagged my first piglet or did my first ear piercing last week, but I got to ask you, what's the best way to capture and hold a piglet? I know this sounds dumb, but my pigs are getting like
No,
25.
you're right.
It's like, do you literally pick
I
them
am
up?
catching like.
Oh, go ahead.
So I
lost. Darn it! Right before the question. I know my questions may sound silly to him, but I think he's definitely relating.
Did you ask how to catch a piglet?
Yeah, sure. Uh-oh. Okay, you back? Can you hear me now?
Yep. Okay.
Okay. How to catch a piglet?
I'm gonna send you. I screen recorded a little section of this. I will send you it afterwards so you can throw it in as a blooper or whatever. It is like the weirdest techno music ever because you're just like the whole time. But I think what you asked was how do I catch piglets? And
hold them.
You just reach back and grab the back leg.
Yeah, well, I got that part, but when it comes to doing their ears, they're kind of hard to do upside down.
You want to know how to catch a whole litter of piglets?
No.
One at a time to do ears. How do you catch them to do their ears?
Yeah.
I do the whole litter at the same time.
I know, but
so I won't I don't ear tag an individual piglet. So all the evaluations and ear tagging and all of that happens as a group. So I will catch the entire litter of piglets, bring them in a dog crate into my garage, do the evals. They get an ear tag then, and if they don't make the cut as a boar, then they get castrated then. And then everybody goes back out. So by the time, once I've done that eval, everybody has an ear tag, and some of them don't have nuts anymore.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So maybe do them when they're smaller, Rob.
So it's
I agree. But the thing is, you don't know what
they're about 3 to 4 weeks old.
Yeah, and I guess I'm looking at my ear tags wrong because I'm looking at them like I want to ear tag them to mark them for my clients, but really what I need to do is ear tag them in relationship to my farm. You know what I mean?
And then if you had a list with all the numbers of your ear tags, then when one sells, write down that number for the person.
Agreed. So, yeah. So I think I'm looking at my ear tagging a little bit too. I'm making it too sophisticated, but so when we're castrating our piglets like we did with the first batch, I should have been ear tagging at the same time. Because we already had them in our lap. We had them, they're all under control, and now they're so damn big. It's hard to control them to try to get ear tags in. So
yeah, it sounds like the earlier the better on that.
Yeah. So yeah, sounds like he's getting interesting feedback on our show. So hopefully he can hear what we're saying. But let's see what else I got for him, and I'll move into business. He's coming back. He got to quit using AOL. Just a second. He's been coming back quite quickly. I swear I'm going to make him go in the kitchen and get some, put tinfoil on his head. There he is.
So I can half hear you now that I'm back in here. I'm going to have fiber optic internet in hopefully less than a month. So when that happens, we'll be good to go.
No problem. We can handle this. We've been through this before. We're good. Health. Let's talk about healthcare as far as what are the standard things that you would recommend breeders or people that have piglets to constantly be in a habit of having around for their piglets? For example, is there certain minerals? We talked about minerals a little bit in the last show, but minerals, vitamins, any particular vaccines that you think are kind of global? I lost him. Patience. We can do this. So one of the things I'll be asking him when he gets back is what's the standard things a breeder should have and process piglets for before he delivers them to his customers. I'll try to keep it short like that. So while you're still on, So if you're a brand new breeder and you're getting ready to give piglets to somebody, what are the standard healthcare things you would do for those piglets? Did you catch that?
No. Who's doing healthcare?
The breeder.
The breeder. What things would you do prior to delivering piglets?
Okay. So we do, as far as health stuff goes, they're just getting wormed, right? So they've got their ear tag in already. They've been evaluated for breeding or not. When they're picked up, right before they get picked up, they get a dose of ivermectin. They get 1 cc orally of injectable ivermectin, the 3% noromectin. And I do that right at pickup. Well, within an hour. I like to tell customers to give me at least an hour's heads up before they arrive, because I want to catch that piglet, get it in a crate, let it calm down, and I want to give it that ivermectin the moment I catch it and get it in that crate. So then he has about an hour to kind of just like chill out, absorb that into their system, because let's face it, most piglets, when they ride in a car, get car sick and vomit. So the goal being to get as much of that absorbed in its system as possible. And then I like to recommend to customers to go ahead and give them another dose about a week or two after they pick up, between like 7 and 11 days, so that then you make sure that, you know, should some of that not have been absorbed, they're covered. 1 cc is the dosage for 50 pounds. And obviously when they pick them up at 6 to 8 weeks, they're not 50 pounds. So that's more than enough to do it. It's not an overdose. In order to overdose, I think you have to do like 7 or 8 cc's for 50 pounds. It's a crazy amount to overdose. So you're not going to overdose by doing 1 cc per 50 pounds. But as far as health stuff for them, that feeder piglets, make sure castration wounds are 100% healed by the time of pickup. I do not like a customer taking home a piglet with a gaping wound on its butt. So
yeah. Interesting. And
I hope you caught like a third of that at least.
We're getting all your side. So it's our side. Okay. You're not hearing our side that well. Shelter. So I use A-frames. And how many pigs, assuming that they're going to get to adult size, would you recommend an A-frame shelter for in a paddock?
3 to 5 pigs. 3 to 5 adult pigs will pretty comfortably, IPPs, will pretty comfortably fit in an A-frame. Your standard, the style everybody on the Facebook groups uses, 3 to 5 adult pigs will cram in there and seem content with it. Even if they have multiples, sometimes they'll all ram themselves in there. I switched over to using, we still have the A-frames and we use those for all of our sows. And in a couple of paddocks, we just still have them because they're heavier than I want to drag all the way back up to the other side of the farm. But we now have some big porta hut style things that we use for our feeder pigs, because like we were getting this last batch this spring, we had 17, I think, maybe 18 pigs in our group before we started culling off as they hit that 8 to 10 month age. We've been dialing it back, taking some in. And so with that many pigs, it was like, oh my gosh, they're not all going to cram into an A-frame. Like that works when they're, that big. That's not going to work when they hit that big. So we bought a couple of these really, really honest. We got 7 really, really cheap. And all they are is the big metal spools that you see utility companies use. If you can get your hands on those, that's what all these are. They're just those spool ends cut in half to make the 2 pieces, the bottom piece cut out, and then some bar stock welded to make the frame, and then just barn tin screwed on and on the back end. And they're super cheap to make, super cheap to get your hands on, and they're like 8 foot across by 8 foot long, and then 4-ish foot tall, because they're 8 foot tall spools. So they'll hold quite a few. We had 16 without really any issues in ours, so it was really crammed, but they seem to like that when it's cold. So
So going back, getting into the business side of things a little bit. So now you convinced me I should keep all my females as gilt unless I'm making turning them into breeders and hold on to them. So what's some of the practices, especially with the rules of social media? Do I advertise and sell my my piglets as a registered IPP person. What's some of the best techniques that you've used to advertise the people that you have registered IPP pigs and they're available for sale if you buy them by halves or wholes?
So whole and half, you're totally good to sell on Facebook. No issues. Facebook only, gets onto you real bad if it's live and trying to sell a live animal. So if you're just selling meat, which is all a whole and half pig is meat as far as Facebook is concerned, even though, it's still on the hoof at the moment, they're not going to have any issues with that. So you can advertise your whole and half hogs that way, even as a 8-week-old piglet. You're still good. Trying to sell your piglets, though, as feeders or breeder piglets to people, you can use the Facebook groups, but be very, very cautious with your wording. Don't make any obvious, this animal is for sale. You can word it like, oh, so-and-so is looking for a new home, or, we have a litter of piglets, but don't directly say, I'm selling these piglets. If your post is very obvious that you're selling piglets, one of us moderators on the IPPVA group or the IPP group will take the post down because they get flagged. And so Facebook threatens to shut the groups down if there are obvious livestock sales. So if you're careful with your wording, you can get away with posting it in the groups. But you're a IPPVA member. So you actually have an extra little benefit. On the website, there's a classified section. So you can post piglets or adult pigs for sale on the classified section of the website. And anybody can view that, not just members. Members are the ones who can post on there, but anybody can view that goes onto the website and clicks on classifieds. And I do go through and try to keep it as updated as possible. If the ad's been up for more than 30 to 60 days, I go ahead and take it down if I can't manage to get somebody to respond with a, like, is this pig still available? But we get a decent amount of inquiries about that with people going, hey, where can I find, I've probably got 10 more that I need to respond to either tonight or tomorrow that are people asking, well, where can I find piglets? Where can I find piglets? And I just send them to the Facebook group because we don't get enough members using the classifieds. It is used every now and then, and it's fantastic when it does because from what I have been told of other people using it, and I've posted a couple on there, they move pretty quick on there when people use it. So when it's not used, nobody's going to ever check, but when it's being used, your animals move a lot faster. So, and there's no restrictions on that. If you have an IPP for sale, or we also have classifieds on there for whole and half. We have classifieds on there for your retail cuts of meat. We have classifieds on there for IPP related products. So like, Colleen, if you're listening, get your stickers up there. If you make IPP large soap, if you've got IPP earrings, like honestly, like anything, it's just IPP related merchandise. If you have anything to push that is made out of or about IPPs, you can post it on there if you're a member.
Cool.
So yeah, like there's a lot of options on there for continuing to market using the resources we have made. So
interesting.
Awesome.
So is there any so I'm still kind of hung up on the guilt problem. I'm very guilty conscious. So I've got all these guilt. So I'm going to I have 5 gilts not sold. I have 1 gilt I sold, but I'm growing it out as a feeder for someone. So I'm guaranteed it's going to be a feeder. So I'm good with that.
Which is perfect. Do as many as you can. Like if you don't have a USDA inspected processor, do that. Push as many whole and halves as you can. If you're like me and my wife, we eat a lot of pork. So like, honestly, we eat 3 or so pigs per year pretty easily. So that resolves some issue. But I don't like that because I'm losing a bunch of money, obviously, right? Like that's a few grand out the door. It's nice because I'm not spending the money and I really love our pork, but as much as possible, we want to sell what our farm produces. So yeah, what that means, right, is that now you have 5 pigs that you get to sell. So that's some added income that is more than if you sold that as a feeder at 150. That's nowhere near as much as we'll make around 1,000 or a little more on so we'll do a little over 1,000 on retail packages for pork. For whole and half, we still make like $700, $800.
You'll be back.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, this is really. We'll definitely do continuation shows like this with him, as especially because last time we did a show with him, his internet was doing really well. And he's back again, and he's back. There he is. So, anything to add to that?
All right, so hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah, so doing that, like, it is obviously way more worth it for me to sell our pigs that are born on the farm. Those gilts are actually more valuable to me than anything else. So, and that is the way, like, we're raising meat. If you're a farmer, right? I mean, there are always options. Like, you could, if you're cattle, you just be a calf operation. You can do that. But honestly, you want to take the route that is the most profitable to go. And so that vertical integration is just the logical conclusion to that. The piglet is born on your farm. You didn't have to spend money to buy that piglet, but now you get to then sell it for the most valuable way to do it. If you can get a USDA inspected processor, fantastic. That is your best bet. And we're looking into actually, fingers crossed, I can track one down that works. The couple I managed to get phone calls into today seem like they're not working, but I saw somebody made a post on the Pastured Pigs for Meat and Profit page, who hate IPPs for the most part, that whole group, but that's okay. To each their own. Somebody had posted in there that they were getting the hides back and turning it into leather and selling leather goods from their pigs, as well as making large soap and selling that from their pigs. Yeah. So, I mean, we're looking to find a leather producer or a leather tannery so that we can start getting our hides turned into that. Because I don't do as much leather work now as I used to. But if I can start getting leather back from my pigs, I have all the tools still. I can do leather work. And so then I can market up my pig even more. We're starting to get back into soap making. We used to make it when we had goat's milk because we do goat's milk lard soap. Now we don't have goats, so we'll just do the lard. But then that's another thing. And you only get that fat back. You only get that hide back when you have the pig processed, right? So if I'm selling that as a feeder piglet, not only have I lost that potential income from selling it as meat, but I've lost that potential also to sell the leather or products made from the leather, or to sell the large soap, or honestly, another weird one, which for some reason people really like. I had a whole business in college doing this, just like bones. People love bones. So selling skulls, for whatever reason, skulls do fantastic. So like you're looking at, with a hog skull, you're looking at anywhere between 40 and 100 something bucks. Okay. What? So that's more valuable than just selling it as a little feeder pig. Right. Wow. So like, there are so many extra ways to make money off that pig that is just going to the scrap bin, right? Like that's just being rendered down, this product that you could then go back through and be selling. And all you got to do for the skulls, mind you, is go pick them back up from the process. Tell the processor that you want it back. Go pick it up at the end of their day and put it in your compost bin. And then if your compost bin is working right, 30 days or so, you can pull that bad boy out, put it in the sun to finish bleaching, and you're good to go. You have a product. So from something that was going to be thrown away, you do have to drive all the way back out to your processor, which for me is about an hour away, but like, there you go.
Yeah. So, well, I just lost him again, but we're going to wrap the video up when he comes back on. But only because it's getting darker and all of us have chores to do. We can't let shows go late anymore. Yeah. So one of the things I've learned is I've kind of start changing my mindset from being a breeder of piglets to a breeder of piglets and meat provider. And so I really actually that was probably the biggest thing I got out of the show is to change my mindset to I'm selling meat. And in my case, I can only do it in halves and wholes. But in the future, who knows what comes up in the future that we might get a USDA cutter around here. That'd be really cool. So, and then of course, there's other ways of making money off the same project. And he's back on. I get to them. So, kind
of back on.
Kind of back on. So we are going to wrap up the show here, but we want to make sure you got back. we did learn the fact. One thing I got out of this was not considering myself as just a pig breeder of piglets, but a pig meat provider. And to me, that actually really changes my mindset a lot. So I think what we'll do is, I know you're having such a hard time with the internet. It's very frustrating. I know. Been there, done that. And so we're going to wrap up at this at the hour here anyway. But I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience and keep not giving up about keep coming back on in the internet. And we'll find it. We have so many more follow-up questions above this. I didn't get close through my list at all. And so we'll just make this a continuous thing about once a month. And hopefully by then you'll have that really good internet.
Yeah. Fingers crossed I'll have fiber.
Yeah. So once again, Caleb, thank you so much for being on the show. I learned a lot. I got a lot of it because I'm a new breeder and I've got these new dilemmas, and I just lost them again. But I get these dilemmas of like, how do I do this? How to do that? So and the other thing I learned from Caleb, and I'll wrap this up really quick, is Caleb taught me that as a breeder, my job is to support my customers. And so my breeder, the people that sold pigs to me that I've worked with, have been providing information and support to help me learn how to be a good registered IPP breeder. So I'm going to continue to pull information out of these guys' head to make us all really good breeders and stuff like that. So once again, Caleb, thank you very much. He is back. I can remember there is an audio version of this, so I got to describe what I'm saying. So anyway, I do want to remind everybody that you can find this podcast on all the normal podcast outlets and also now on Central Oregon Radio. So anyway, guys, we're going to say goodbye here, and poor Caleb's just frustrated with his internet, but he's been so patient. So thanks again, Caleb, for being on the show. Stay on. Let's see if we can talk to you after the show's over. Everybody's been watching and listening and being patient. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you all later.
Y'all have a good one.
And of course, I messed up my screen again. This video is made possible by Ranger Rob Poopy Bags, available in Amazon right now. Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos all over the whole wide world.
I can't tell if y'all can still hear me or not. You're completely froze, so... Oh, you moved a little.